Part 1: The Invisible Enemy. Understanding Negative Thoughts. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the loudest voice in your life isn't coming from the people around you, but from inside your own head? That constant chatter, the doubts, the what-ifs, the memories you can't seem to shake. Negative thoughts are like shadows. They don't weigh anything, they can't be touched, and yet they can feel heavier than a mountain on your chest. And if you've ever laid awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying mistakes, fears, or regrets, then you know exactly what I mean. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, knew this problem well. Imagine this. You're the most powerful man in the world, ruling an empire stretched across continents. You face wars, plagues, betrayal, and death all around you. Yet, even in that position, Marcus wrote about his greatest battle, not against enemies with swords, but against the thoughts inside his own mind. He admitted in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That one line reveals the entire Stoic approach to negative thinking. The external world is wild, unpredictable, and often cruel. But inside, you can train your mind, discipline your thoughts, and win back your peace. So let's take a moment to understand this invisible enemy we call negative thoughts. What are they really? Why do they stick to us like glue? And how did the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, learn to break free? 1. The nature of a thought. First, let's strip a thought down to what it really is. A thought is nothing more than a spark of the brain, electrical signals firing across neurons. By itself, a thought has no weight, no claws, no chains. Yet, when we hold on to it, when we repeat it again and again, it grows into something monstrous. Imagine someone walking past you on the street and muttering, "You're useless." If you ignore it, those words vanish into the air in seconds. But if you replay it in your head, repeat it to yourself, and start believing it, suddenly it becomes part of your identity. You begin to wear the insult like a badge. The Stoics would call this assent. It's not the insult itself that hurts you, but your decision to accept it as true. In other words, the world throws sparks at you. Whether those sparks become fire depends on whether you let them land on dry wood or not. 2. The trap of judgment. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." Marcus echoed this idea again and again in his journal. Think about it. Rain doesn't ruin your day. Your judgment that rain is bad does. A losing money doesn't destroy your peace. Your judgment that I cannot live without this does. The failure doesn't break you. Your judgment that I am worthless now does. Negative thoughts are judgments, interpretations of reality. But judgments can be challenged, questioned, and replaced. When you start to see that thoughts are not absolute truths, but passing opinions, you create space. And in that space, you gain freedom. 3. The fortress of the mind. Marcus Aurelius often compared the mind to a fortress, a stronghold that must be guarded against invaders. The invaders are not soldiers, but destructive ideas. Envy, fear, anger, despair. Picture your mind as a castle with a gate. Every thought knocks on that gate, asking to be let in. But here's the question. Who's guarding your gate? Do you let every thought in without question, as if every visitor is a friend? Or do you stand watch, deciding carefully who deserves entry? Marcus reminded himself, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Don't try to picture everything bad that could happen. Stick with the situation at hand." This was his way of saying, guard the gate. Don't let in every worst-case scenario. Don't let your imagination destroy your peace. 4. Why we feed negative thoughts. If negative thoughts are so harmful, why do we feed them? Why do we repeat them until they echo endlessly inside our heads? There are a few reasons. A survival instinct. Our ancestors survived by remembering dangers. The brain is wired to focus on threats more than blessings. That's why one insult can hurt more than 10 compliments. Illusion of control. We replay negative scenarios as if by worrying about them, we can prevent them. But in reality, overthinking rarely leads to solutions, only exhaustion. Comfort of familiarity. Strange as it sounds, some people cling to negative thoughts because they feel familiar. Misery becomes a habit, and habits are hard to break. The Stoics understood this. That's why they trained themselves daily, to shift focus from what they cannot control to what they can. 5. Marcus's private battle. It's important to realize, Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations as a book for the world. He wrote it as a private journal never meant to be read by others. These were his reminders to himself, his way of battling his own thoughts. He wrote things like, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." In other words, he wasn't immune to negativity. He faced it every day just like us. The difference was, he practiced responding differently. He used philosophy as a shield. He didn't always succeed, but he practiced. And that's the lesson for us. Killing negative thoughts isn't about never having them. It's about refusing to let them define you, refusing to let them grow roots in your mind. 6. A modern reflection. Now, fast forward to today. We're not emperors. We're not ruling armies. But in some ways, we're fighting an even harder battle. Our world is louder, faster, and more distracting than ever. Social media shouts at us. News cycles pump fear into us. Everyone is competing for our attention, and negative thoughts multiply like weeds. This is why Stoic wisdom is more relevant than ever. Because no matter how chaotic the outside world gets, your inner fortress can remain strong, if you practice. So here's where we begin. Negative thoughts are not your identity. They are visitors knocking on the door of your mind. Some are weak, some are loud, but none of them have power unless you give it to them. Marcus Aurelius faced them, wrote about them, and trained himself to let them pass. If he could do it under the crushing weight of empire, so can you in your daily life. Part 2, Training the Fortress, the Stoic View of the Mind. In Part 1, we talked about negative thoughts as uninvited guests knocking on the door of your mind. Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics believed that the mind is like a fortress, strong, impenetrable, and sacred, but only if you guard it well. If you leave the gate open, if you let in every visitor, then the fortress is no fortress at all. So how exactly did the Stoics see the mind? What did they believe it was capable of, and how did they suggest we train it? Let's dive into that. 1. The mind as the only true possession. One of the deepest Stoic ideas is this: the only thing you truly own is your mind. Think about it. You might have wealth, but it can be stolen. You might have health, but illness can strike at any time. You might have relationships, but people can leave or be taken away. Even your body, in the end, will betray you. But your mind? That is yours. Epictetus said it clearly. You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will. Marcus Aurelius built his philosophy on this truth. He reminded himself daily that while fate could strip him of almost everything, it could never take away his ability to reason, to choose his attitude, to shape his thoughts. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it means freedom is always within reach. Terrifying because it means there is no excuse. You can't blame the world for the quality of your thoughts. That responsibility is yours. 2. The Stoic practice of attention. The Stoics practiced what we might call mindful attention. They didn't use the modern word mindfulness, but the practice is strikingly similar. Marcus wrote, "Do not wander. Keep your attention focused." He was warning himself against letting the mind scatter, against being pulled into gossip, distractions, or negative spirals of thought. To the Stoics, attention was like the watchman at the fortress gate. Without it, anything could sneak in. With it, you could stop destructive thoughts at the threshold. Try it yourself. The next time you notice a negative thought rising, don't automatically accept it. Stop. Pay attention. Ask, where did this thought come from? Is it useful? Does it help me live better right now? That pause, that tiny moment of attention, is where power lies. 3. The inner citadel. French philosopher Pierre Hadot described Marcus Aurelius's practice as building an inner citadel. A citadel is the strongest part of a fortress, the last defense when all else is under siege. For Marcus, the citadel was the calm, rational core of the mind. No matter how chaotic Rome became, no matter how many enemies attacked, no matter how many friends betrayed him, he could retreat into his citadel, a place of reason, perspective, and peace. This wasn't an escape. It wasn't denial. It was strength. By returning to his inner citadel, Marcus could face the world without being destroyed by it. And that's what we need today. A private mental space where no criticism, no failure, no fear can touch us. A place where we remember, this is just a thought. It cannot rule me unless I allow it. 4. The sword of reason. The Stoics didn't just observe thoughts, they challenged them. They wielded reason like a sword. Let's say a thought enters your mind, I will fail. A Stoic wouldn't just accept it. He would interrogate it. How do I know this is true? Even if I fail, does it make me worthless? What can I do right now to improve my chances? Often, the thought collapses under questioning. It was never as solid as it pretended to be. Marcus reminded himself, does what happened keep you from acting with justice, generosity, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness? If the answer was no, then the thought was irrelevant. He could let it go. We can do the same. Reason is our weapon. Use it. 5. Training through daily exercises. The Stoics didn't expect discipline to appear magically. They trained for it like soldiers. Here are some of their daily exercises for strengthening the mind. A morning reflection. Marcus would begin the day reminding himself, today you will meet ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest people, but they cannot harm your mind unless you allow them to. This prepared him for negativity before it arrived. Evening review. At night he would review the day. Where did he let anger win? Where did fear creep in? Where did he stay calm? This wasn't self-punishment, it was training, a way of sharpening his mental sword. A negative visualization. Stoics practiced imagining worst-case scenarios, losing wealth, status, even loved ones, not to make themselves sad, but to reduce the fear of loss. By rehearsing mentally, they built resilience, a voluntary discomfort. Sometimes they would fast, sleep on hard surfaces, or wear simple clothes. The goal was to remind themselves that comfort isn't necessary for peace. If they could face small discomforts with calm, they would be ready for bigger challenges. All of these practices were about one thing, building the fortress. 6. The enemy within. Marcus knew that the greatest enemy wasn't outside the walls of Rome. It was inside his own head. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And what stops us from living? Often, it's not external obstacles but the stories we tell ourselves. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. Things will never change. These stories are poison. They paralyze us. And yet, they are nothing more than thoughts, smoke and shadow. The Stoics teach us that we can see through them, cut them down, and move forward. 7. A modern example. Think about overthinking. Have you ever replayed a conversation 100 times in your head, analyzing every word, wondering what the other person thought? That's a modern form of self-torture. Marcus faced the same problem. He reminded himself, don't waste the rest of your time here worrying about other people, unless it affects the common good. In other words, most of the things you obsess about don't matter. Stop feeding them. This advice is timeless. Social media, gossip, imagined criticism. All of these are negative thoughts knocking at your gate. Will you let them in, or will you keep your fortress strong? So here's the Stoic perspective. Your mind is your only true possession, your fortress, your citadel. Negative thoughts will always attack, but you decide whether to let them through the gate. By practicing attention, wielding reason, and training daily, you can build a mind that stays calm even in storms. That's how Marcus Aurelius survived the chaos of ruling Rome. And it's how you can survive the chaos of modern life. Part 3: The Stoic Weapons. Practical ways to kill negative thoughts. We've talked about negative thoughts as invaders at the gate. We've explored the Stoic idea of the mind as a fortress. But philosophy is useless unless it's lived. Marcus Aurelius never wrote theory for the sake of theory. His meditations were his training ground, his daily reminders, his personal therapy. So now let's get practical. How do we actually kill negative thoughts when they show up in our everyday lives? Not just admire the Stoic wisdom, but apply it. 1. Observation without judgment. The first step is simply noticing. Most people don't even realize how many negative thoughts they're carrying. They move through the day on autopilot, believing every word the mind whispers. The Stoics trained themselves to observe thoughts without being consumed by them. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions." So the practice is simple. When a negative thought arises, "I'm not good enough. This will go wrong. I can't handle this." Pause. Label it. Say to yourself, "This is just a thought. This is not me. It will pass." By naming the thought, you create space. And in that space, the thought begins to lose its grip. It's like watching clouds pass across the sky. You don't chase them. You don't fight them. You just notice, "Ah, there goes another one." 2. Returning to the present. Negative thoughts love to live in two places: the past and the future. The past gives you regret, replaying mistakes, reliving shame, holding on to anger. The future gives you worry. What if I fail? What if I lose? What if something terrible happens? Marcus knew this trap well. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, because the present is the only place you have any real power." Think about it. In the present moment, most of our problems don't exist. Right now, as you're listening to this, you're alive, breathing, safe. Most of the suffering is in your imagination, not in your reality. So when a negative thought drags you to the past or future, bring yourself back. Take a deep breath. Feel the weight of your body in your chair, and notice the sounds around you. Anchor yourself, because the present moment is always lighter than your fears. 3. The Stoic sword of reason. Marcus didn't believe in blindly accepting every thought. He believed in cutting them down with reason. Let's say the thought is, "I'm going to fail." The Stoic sword asks questions. How do I know this for certain? Even if I fail, is that truly the end of me? What can I control right now that improves my chances? Often the thought crumbles, because most negative thoughts are exaggerations, half-truths, or outright lies. Epictetus taught, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." That's reason at work, turning the mind away from pointless rumination toward something useful. You can do the same with fear, jealousy, anger, despair. Don't just feel them. Challenge them. Interrogate them until they shrink. 4. Writing as therapy. One of the most powerful tools Marcus Aurelius used was writing. His meditations weren't polished essays. They were raw notes to himself, reminders, corrections, pep talks, self-confrontations. This is a practice you can adopt immediately. When negative thoughts swarm your mind, write them down. Don't filter. Don't polish. Just get them onto paper. Then look at them with the eyes of reason. Are they true? Are they useful? Are they helping you live with courage and virtue? Often, when you see a thought written out, it looks much weaker than it did in your head. It loses its mystery. It loses its sting. This is how Marcus killed his negative thoughts, by exposing them on the page where they couldn't hide. 5. Negative visualization. Here's a practice that may sound strange at first. Imagine the worst. The Stoics would deliberately picture losing what they loved, health, wealth, even family. Not to make themselves miserable, but to prepare the mind. By rehearsing loss, they reduced fear. By imagining hardship, they built strength. Seneca said, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." So the next time a negative thought whispers, "What if something goes wrong?" Don't run from it. Face it. Imagine it. Then remind yourself, even if this happens, I can endure it. I can remain true to myself. By practicing worst-case scenarios, you weaken their power over you. 6. Voluntary discomfort. Another Stoic weapon, deliberately practicing discomfort. Marcus Aurelius didn't seek luxury. He often reminded himself to eat simple food, sleep in modest conditions, wear plain clothes. Why? Because comfort breeds fear. If you're always comfortable, the thought of losing comfort terrifies you. But if you've practiced living simply, negative thoughts about loss can't scare you. Try it yourself. Skip a meal, take a cold shower, walk instead of drive. Remind yourself, I can live with less. I am stronger than I think. This kills the thought, I can't survive without comfort. You prove to yourself that you can. 7. The daily review. At night, Marcus would review his day. Where did I let anger win? Where did I feed fear? Where did I stay calm? This wasn't self-punishment. It was training, a way to sharpen awareness and prepare for tomorrow. You can do the same. Each evening, write down the negative thought I faced today, how I responded, how I could respond better next time. Over time, this builds strength. You stop being surprised by negativity. You start to see it as practice. 8. Turning thoughts into allies. Here's a final Stoic twist. Not every negative thought must be an enemy. Sometimes they can be allies if you use them wisely. For example, the thought, I might fail, can paralyze you. But if you reframe it, it becomes motivation. Yes, I might fail. So let me prepare harder, work smarter, stay humble. The Stoics called this turning obstacles into opportunities. The thought doesn't disappear, but you redirect its energy. You make it serve you instead of enslave you. So here are your Stoic weapons: observation, presence, reason, writing, visualization, discomfort, review, and reframing. Each one is simple. None of them require special tools or perfect conditions. They just require practice. And with practice, negative thoughts lose their claws. Marcus Aurelius wasn't born with an invincible mind. He built it brick by brick with these very practices. And you can do the same. Part 4: Marcus Aurelius. A life tested by fire. It's one thing to talk about philosophy in peace and comfort. It's another to practice it while the world is collapsing around you. Marcus Aurelius, often remembered as the philosopher king, lived not in a golden age of leisure, but in one of the harshest periods of Roman history. If anyone had reason to drown in negative thoughts, it was him. And yet, instead of despair, he turned to Stoicism. His meditations are proof that philosophy is not just an idea, it's a lifeline. Let's walk through some of the greatest struggles he faced, and see how he killed his own demons of doubt, grief, and fear. 1. The weight of empire. Imagine waking up every day with the knowledge that the fate of an empire rests on your shoulders. For Marcus, this wasn't imagination, it was reality. He became emperor at a time of constant war, political instability, and economic decline. He wasn't a soldier by nature. He loved philosophy, books, and quiet reflection. And yet, he spent much of his reign in military camps, surrounded by mud, blood, and exhaustion. Negative thoughts must have stalked him constantly. I'm not fit for this. I wasn't made for war. I'll fail my people. But in meditations, he reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In other words, yes, the empire is in chaos. Yes, the world is harsh. But what matters most is how I respond. Right now, in this moment. That focus on inner control killed the thought of helplessness. 2. Endless war. The wars on the Northern Front dragged on for years. Marcus spent more than a decade away from Rome, living in harsh military camps. He wasn't young or strong by then. He suffered from weak health and constant illness. But war doesn't wait for recovery. Imagine leading thousands of soldiers while your body aches. Your mind longs for rest, and your family is far away. This is where Marcus's discipline mattered most. He reminded himself that discomfort is temporary, that endurance is a choice. He wrote, if it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. Instead of feeding the thought, I can't take this anymore, he reframed it. I've survived every hardship so far. This one will be no different. That's how he kept moving forward, one battle, one decision, one breath at a time. 3. Plague and death. As if war wasn't enough, the Antonine Plague swept across the empire during Marcus's reign. Millions died. Entire cities emptied. The economy collapsed. Marcus himself buried many of his own children. Out of his 13 children, only a few survived into adulthood. Imagine the grief. Imagine the weight of watching your people and your own family vanish to disease. It would have been easy to drown in despair. To ask, why me? Why now? What's the point of ruling when everything is falling apart? But Marcus confronted death with clarity. He wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." He turned grief into urgency. Instead of letting sorrow consume him, he let it remind him, life is short. Use it well. This shift of perspective is what killed the thought of hopelessness. 4. Betrayal and pressure. Even inside the empire, Marcus faced betrayal. Senators plotted against him. Friends could not be trusted. His co-emperor Lucius Verus died suddenly, leaving Marcus alone with even more burdens. On top of that, he had to make impossible decisions. Sending men to die in war, raising taxes, enforcing laws that made him unpopular. The negative thoughts must have been relentless. I'm surrounded by enemies. No matter what I do, someone will hate me. What if I make the wrong decision? His answer was discipline. He told himself, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Instead of chasing popularity or approval, Marcus grounded himself in virtue. If he acted with honesty, justice, and courage, then the judgment of others didn't matter. That killed the thought of doubt. 5. The family struggle. One of the great ironies of Marcus's life is that, despite his wisdom, his own son, Commodus, grew into one of Rome's most disastrous rulers. Marcus must have wrestled with the thought, I have failed as a father. But again, Stoicism reminded him, you can control your own character, not the choices of others. You can guide, you can teach, you can love, but the outcome is not yours to own. That acceptance freed him from drowning in guilt. He did what he could and left the rest to fate. 6. The private Marcus. We often picture Marcus as a stoic marble statue, calm, serene, unshaken. But his meditations reveal the opposite. They reveal a man constantly struggling, constantly reminding himself not to give in to anger, fear, or sadness. He wrote to himself, do not waste the rest of your life speculating about others. When you wake up unwillingly, think, I am rising to do the work of a human being. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. These were not casual notes. They were battles. His pen was his weapon. Every morning, every night, Marcus fought his own negative thoughts on the page. And by writing, he won. 7. The final lesson. Near the end of his life, Marcus was worn down by war, sickness, and loss. Yet his writings never turned bitter. Instead, he accepted fate with dignity. He saw death not as an enemy, but as a natural part of life. He urged himself, pass through this brief life as nature directs, and with good grace, just as an olive falls when it is ripe, blessing the earth that bore it and grateful to the tree that gave it life. This final acceptance killed the ultimate fear, the fear of death. So what do we see in Marcus Aurelius? A man tested by war, plague, betrayal, grief, and failure. A man who faced enough suffering to break anyone. And yet, he did not collapse. He did not let negative thoughts rule him. With Stoicism, he built an inner fortress so strong that even the collapse of an empire could not bring it down. That's the proof. Stoicism is not just theory. It's not just words in a book. It's a philosophy that can keep a man alive in the middle of chaos. Not just alive, but noble, calm, and clear. Part 5: Building Your Own Fortress of Mind. We've traveled far. We began by understanding why negative thoughts are so destructive, then explored how Stoicism gives us tools to tame them. We studied Marcus Aurelius not as a distant marble statue, but as a man of flesh and blood, who carried the same burdens of worry, grief, and self-doubt that you and I carry. Now comes the most important part. How do you take these lessons and build your own fortress of mind? How do you, in the middle of modern chaos, silence the voices of negativity and live with clarity and strength? Let's break this into a simple step-by-step practice you can use daily. 1. The morning watchtower. The Stoics began each day with reflection. For Marcus Aurelius, the morning wasn't just about waking up, it was about arming his mind. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. You see, mornings are dangerous. The first thoughts that enter your head often shape your entire day. If you allow negativity to take control right away, thoughts like, 'I'm tired,' 'I hate today,' or 'I'm not good enough,' then your day is poisoned before it even begins. So what's the solution? Start with gratitude. List 3 things, however small, that you're thankful for. Set your intention. Choose one virtue to practice today. Courage, patience, honesty, kindness. Remind yourself of control. Say, 'I cannot control what others do today. I can control my mind, my choices, my actions.' That's your watchtower, the high place from which you guard your fortress against the first wave of negativity. 2. The midday battle. Even with the strongest start, negativity will attack again. Maybe a coworker insults you. Maybe your boss criticizes you unfairly. Maybe your phone shows you someone else's perfect life on social media, and suddenly you feel small. This is the moment when Marcus Aurelius's wisdom matters most. He said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. The insult? Just sound. The criticism? Just words. The social media post? Just pixels on a screen. It's not the event. It's the meaning you attach to it." So, in the heat of the battle, try this Stoic practice. Pause before reacting. Take one breath. Name the thought. Say, "This is irritation. This is envy. This is doubt." Ask the Stoic question, "Is this within my control?" If yes, act wisely. If no, release it. That is how you kill a negative thought before it grows into a monster. 3. The evening fortress. The day is almost done. You fought battles, endured stress, carried burdens. The evening is when most people collapse into distraction. TV, scrolling, endless noise. But Marcus Aurelius used evenings differently. His meditations were often written at night, in the quiet, as a way to process the day. You can do the same. Build your fortress each night with 3 steps. Review. Ask yourself, where did I succeed in mastering my thoughts today? Where did I fail? Forgive. Don't punish yourself. Negative thoughts win sometimes. That's human. Forgive yourself and move forward. Reset. Choose one lesson to carry into tomorrow. Maybe patience. Maybe courage. Maybe silence. With this practice, every day becomes a chance to grow stronger. You don't just survive, you evolve. 4. Tools for daily Stoic practice. Let's make it even more practical. Here are some Stoic tools you can carry with you in modern life. Journaling. Like Marcus Aurelius, write down your thoughts each day. See them clearly. Challenge them. Guide them. A negative visualization. Imagine losing something you love. Not to depress yourself, but to awaken gratitude. Suddenly, what you have feels more precious. A voluntary discomfort. Try fasting, taking cold showers, or walking without comfort. This builds resilience. If you can face small discomforts, big challenges lose their power. Silence. Spend a few minutes each day without noise, without distraction. In silence, you'll hear the whispers of your mind, and you'll learn to master them. These tools aren't theory. They're weapons. Use them daily, and your fortress will grow unshakable. 5. Facing the ultimate enemy, fear of death. At the root of many negative thoughts is one core fear: death. The fear of losing life, losing loved ones, losing everything. Marcus Aurelius did not run from this fear. He faced it, He wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. To live fully, you must accept death, not with despair, but with calm. Death is not the end of meaning. It's the reminder that meaning is urgent. Every moment matters because it will not return. When you see life this way, many negative thoughts die instantly. Envy looks foolish. Regret looks small. Worry looks like wasted time. Death is not your enemy. Fear is. And the way to kill fear is to embrace life with clarity and courage." 6. Building the fortress together. One last thing. Stoicism is a personal practice, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. Marcus Aurelius had his teachers, his friends, his fellow philosophers. You too can build a community of resilience. Share your practice with others. Talk about Stoicism. Encourage friends to reflect on their own negative thoughts. When you walk this path together, the fortress grows stronger. And you'll find that the walls you've built inside yourself become walls that protect others too. Final reflection. So here we are. We began with a simple question. How do we kill negative thoughts? The answer is not to fight them violently, nor to pretend they don't exist. The answer is to see them clearly, deny them energy, and replace them with reason, virtue, and gratitude. Marcus Aurelius did this while ruling an empire, burying children, fighting wars, and facing death. You can do it too in your daily life, at work, at home, in your struggles and challenges. Your mind is a fortress. You are the guard at the gate. Decide who enters. Decide who stays. And remember, the happiness of your life truly does depend on the quality of your thoughts. So choose them wisely. Closing call to action. If this journey through Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius inspired you, don't let it stop here. Practice it. Live it. Become the kind of person who cannot be shaken by negativity. And if you want more lessons like this, rooted in ancient wisdom but alive for modern times, subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who needs strength today. And most of all, begin your practice now. The fortress of your mind is waiting to be built.